For December 11th, 2009, this is News Undies, all the news that shouldn't be news. I'm Paul Torville with these headlines. President Obama has decided to send around 30,000 more troops to Afghanistan. I'm sure that will help. Certainly the problems in Afghanistan are military and not social, religious, or political. Certainly. According to Guinea's communication minister, the French Secret Service had a hand in the recent assassination attempt against the military leader of Guinea, Captain Moussa Camara. So what is Camara's condition? Nobody's saying anything really definitive. That helps. Guinea is one of those countries where a European colonial power, for one reason or another, just kind of said, yeah, well, it's been fun, but, oh, look at the time, and bagged ass for the homeland. Leaving a power vacuum like that really makes for years of great sitcom-like television. The Pledge of Allegiance. The Episcopal Diocese of Los Angeles has elected an openly lesbian bishop, causing the Archbishop of Canterbury's head to blow clean off. Rowan Williams, the Archbishop of Canterbury, has issued a statement saying that the election of Reverend Canon Mary Glasspool as Bishop of L.A., quote, raises very serious questions not just for the Episcopal Church and its place in the Anglican Communion, but for the Communion as a whole, end quote. But he's an idiot. Glasspool is the second openly homosexual bishop to be elected in the Episcopal Church. Kind of odd that a major church is ahead of the federal government of the United States on matters of social progress and real equality. Sad, actually. We'll have more after this. Hey gang, it's time for celebrity birthdays once again. I got my cake hat on, let's rock! For Saturday the 12th, Frank Sinatra, dead, Bob Barker, and Sheila E. For Sunday the 13th, Richard Zanuck, John Davidson, and Ted Nugent. For Monday the 14th, Patty Duke, Ginger Lynn, and Ted Ramey. For Tuesday the 15th, Alan Freed, dead, Tim Conway, and Don Johnson. For Wednesday the 16th, Philip K. Dick, dead, Billy Gibbons, and Bill Hicks, dead. For Thursday the 17th, Ernie Hudson, Eugene Levy, and Bill Pullman. And for Friday the 18th, Keith Richards, Ron White, and Katie Holmes. That's Celebrity Birthdays. I'm Paul Torville, and I'm done! Pope Benedict XVI will celebrate this year's Midnight Christmas Mass at 10 p.m. rather than the eponymous midnight. No big deal. It's only a tradition, and he's only the Pope. Let the pants pooping begin. Ryan Seacrest. The Consumer Product Safety Commission has stated that Zhu Zhu Pets are not dangerous due to the presence of antimony in the toy's fur and nose. GoodGuide.com, a website which claims to be, quote, the largest and most reliable source of information on the health, environmental, and social impacts of the products in your home, end quote. Certainly the concept of humility has never occurred to them. Posted a statement that the level of chromium and antimony in the toy were dangerously high. GoodGuide.com has since issued a statement saying that their testing methods are different from the CPSC's, and that's all they have to say about that. The best we've been able to figure is that the government's test determined the amount of hazardous metals a user of the product could take in through normal use, contact with the surfaces and so on, absorption through the skin, things like that. While the Good Guide test more or less amounted to assuming that the young child would ingest the entire toy and then digest it completely, breaking all molecular bonds and then absorbing it completely. I'm just saying, that's all. More after this. This summer's passage of blasphemy legislation in Ireland and the recent prohibition on the construction of new minarets in Switzerland points to an odd dichotomy of opinion regarding religion. Is there a position government can take which protects the rights of all parties involved? Here are Pig and Sheep with their thoughts.
The government needs to defend my faith because my faith is the right faith. See how many sheep are in my flock? With this many believers, we have to be right.
Yeah. Look, the framers of the U.S. Constitution had the right intention, but could have been a little more explicit in their wording. The fairest and most respectful thing a government can do with regard to religion is to stay out of it. Part of what makes liberty a challenging thing to live with is there are bound to be people who disagree with you, and they and you are entitled to hold and express opinions. You are not entitled to be unoffended. You are entitled to be secure in your person, property, and papers, but the government is under no obligation, nor should it be, to ensure your feelings are never hurt. If you cling to faulty beliefs, your clinging to them does not alleviate their faultiness. Of 1 billion or more other adherents. Anyone should be able to call you out on your faulty beliefs, and the government should have no part in defending them.
That's what Pig and Sheep think. What are your thoughts? Email them to ovcomments@newsundies.com. Bryant Gumbel revealed to ironically technophobic cyborg Regis Philbin that he's had a malignant tumor removed from his lung. Bummer for him. Still, the 61-year-old has had a pretty good run, having gotten his first break in television in 1971 and having only last year resigned his NFL Network's play-by-play announcer. In between, Gumbel spent 15 years as the host of NBC's Today Show. Of course, his brief appearance on Family Guy as half of the bike-riding, crime-fighting team of Gumbel to Gumbel will overshadow all his other achievements. The Tiger Woods mess has exploded all over the media, and despite my repeated requests, is now in my eyes. Now a mystery blonde person, turns out it was Woods' mother-in-law, Barbara Holmberg, has been wheeled out of his home on a stretcher into an ambulance and off to the hospital for an 11-hour poke and prod, then back to Woods' house. On a side note, now that Tiger is less of a focus in these stories, they're starting to read more like an IKEA catalog. But I digress. Now it comes out that Tiger and his posable fashion doll wife Ellen Nordgren are actually incompatible. Thankfully, on the 6th of December of this year, the website AstroDispatch.com has published a detailed astrological analysis of the impact of the planets and constellations and such on the marriage of Woods and Nordgren. Of course, none of these transits and oppositions and being-ins are beyond the scope of basic mathematical prediction. Planetary orbits are so predictable as to be boring, and which constellations they're in is equally mundane. Why is it that no one managed to alert Woods and Nordgren prior to their 2005 wedding that his Venus being in Scorpio and hers being in Aquarius did not bode well for their relationship, despite the fact that 312 minus 239 equals 73? I don't know what that has to do with anything, but we'll let that lie, so to speak. More news after this.
We're running out of Gumdrops. How are we possibly going to make our pasta bites?
I don't know, man. But I don't really care. Oh, I didn't hear you. I'm John Ray.
Jimmy Sorrell.
I'm Kim.
Mike Moraggio. Jim Foley. Sometimes it's usually $5.
Do you not know about the promotion that's going on in December?
If you bring in a can, you get it for free. No, a can of food.
Not a can of air.
Richard Wagstaff Clark. A Birmingham, Alabama woman who had legally changed her name to Jesus Christ reported for jury duty last week and was promptly dismissed for disruptive behavior. Not only was Ms. Christ disrupting the proceedings by asking questions instead of answering, but others present vacillated between gasps of horror and howls of derisive laughter whenever her name was called. Jesus Christ has been unavailable for further comment on the matter. There's a familiar ring to it. And finally, and I do mean finally, we all saw this coming, didn't we? Well, it had to happen. The Kindle, Amazon.com's almost universally adored electronic book reader, has met with disappointment from the newspaper and magazine giants Time Inc., News Corp, Condé Nast, Hearst Corp, and Meredith Corp. They've announced a joint venture to create an alternative device and format which would incorporate all kinds of additional bells and whistles like a web browser on a laptop without the additional usability of a laptop. So that's dumb. Of course, the other thing that the newspaper and magazine giants are complaining about is the lack of, quote, access to subscriber data, unquote. And that's enticing. So really, it's a win-win for the reading public. Market fragmentation, another special purpose gadget to carry, more fees and subscriptions, and yet another vendor. Oh, and another corporate behemoth peering in on your behavior and habits. Well, that's all for this edition of News Undies. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with a fresh set of News Undies next week. Until then, I'm Paul Torville. After that, I might be a clunky new digital reader that only works with certain magazines.